This meeting is being recorded.
Currently, she is pursuing LLM in the Constitutional and Criminal Law from the esteemed National Law University, Delhi. Ma'am, we are truly grateful to have you today among with us. We welcome you to the session. The session will comprise of a speech given by our honorable speaker, followed by a question and answer segment where you can interact with our speaker directly. So without further ado, let's dive into the wealth of knowledge ma'am has to offer. Ma'am, the floor is up to you.
Thank you, Ayushi. Thank you for having me, and hi everyone. So I think Ayushi has already introduced me. Thank you for that. If I could just request everybody to mute themselves, because I'm seeing that there's a lot of noise coming in. तो जिसके भी mics on रह गए एक बार आप लोग mute कर लीजिए. Yes. So usually I think this is my 12th or 13th webinar. I think मैं अब पुरानी हो गई हूँ इसमें. तो मैंने usually notice किया है कि when we do a question answer session, it's more productive for the aspirants. But today I'd like to talk also a little bit, and then we'll go into the questions. The first thing I'd like to address, and I get this question a lot, as to whether judicial services is a good career choice for people or not. Now, I'm not a career coach. So, this disclaimer I want to give right in the beginning, that I am not here to convince anybody to join the judicial services. Okay. If you have already made the decision कि हाँ हमें judicial services करना है और आपको preparation में help चाहिए, तो मैं उसमें आपसे अपनी strategy वगैरह share कर सकती हूँ. But मैं ये नहीं करूँगी कि मैं आपको बोलूँगी I don't need to become an advocate for the judicial services and how brilliant it is as a career option, and the brilliant work that you do. Ultimately, you serve the society with your knowledge of law. So I'm not here to convince anybody to do that, okay? Because people start asking, no, is it, should we practice law or should we go into the services? You don't get elevated to the position of a high court judge. So what is the point of, retiring as a district judge? You won't have a very luxurious life because you're in a government job. So, money is always, it's a salaried job ultimately. So I already knew all these things when I was getting into the process of giving this exam. I am okay with all that. I am okay with living a simple life and working for the government and contributing, however minutely, through the administration of justice in our country. So I'm okay with all that, and I think we can take the discussion forward from here only, right? Now secondly, जो अभी recently news में जो चीज है कि वो laws change कर दिए हैं या change होने वाले हैं, जो 3 bills pass I guess हो ही जाएंगे. So without commenting on what they are supposed to be, I think aspirants, because I've been getting a lot of messages, कि मैम अभी वो पुराना IPC CRPC पढ़ें या फिर नया करें, क्या करें. तो देखिए अभी तो वो बिल स्टेज पे ही हैं तीनों, IPC CRPC एंड एविडेंस. आई डोंट इवन रिमेम्बर द नेम ऑफ द न्यू लॉज एक्चुअली. So anyway, so they're at the bill stage only. I'd suggest if you can give up your criminal law preparation for a bit, तो उसको थोड़ा साइड पे रखिए, सिविल लॉ पे फोकस करिए. ये नहीं कर सकते हैं तो आई ऑलवेज एडवोकेट कि आप कोचिंग ज्वाइन करिए. तो अगर आप किसी कोचिंग में हैं तो दे विल अगेन टेक केयर ऑफ the amendments and the new laws that have been introduced. They'll teach you like that. I don't think कोई आपको ऐसे ही छोड़ देगा कि हाँ अभी नए laws आए तो तुम अपना खुद डील करो, if you are taking a coaching. ठीक है, so you don't need to worry about all that. सेकेंडली, जब तक ऑफिशियली नोटिफिकेशन में सिलेबस चेंज नहीं होता, ये बोला नहीं जाता है, तो अगेन यू कैन नॉट अज्यूम that it is the new law only which is going to be asked and things like that. Thirdly, the law has changed for everyone. It is not just you. So even we, when we go into our training, have to read the new law. Okay, and you also and all other 20,000 30,000 judicial services aspirants have to read the new law. You are not the only one. Okay, so with that positive attitude in mind, let's start. I think we can start with the questions.
Yes, ma'am. So everybody is requested to drop the questions either in the chat box or just raise their hands. Meanwhile, ma'am, I and my team received some questions through the forms that we put on for submissions. So
Okay.
I'll start from that.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, number one being how life becomes different, or what turns does life takes when it comes to becoming a judge. So when a law student becomes a judge, what little changes does he or she encounters?
Well, I don't know if I'm correctly placed to answer this question because my training also hasn't started yet. So I have no idea actually. But what the impression that I have is that it is definitely a job that is of great responsibility. So when you are sitting on the position of a judge, uh, symbolically also judges, if you go into a courtroom, even in the lower courts, the judges sit on a raised pedestal, right? So it's said that they're above bias, they're above all these petty considerations. So that is the responsibility that comes with the job. A lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability. So then you have to, uh, sort of understand that this is what you're going to be taking up. You cannot let your personal biases creep into the decisions that you're going to take. So I think that is something you have to maybe become a little mature, rise above the small things, the petty things. I think that is the first thing that is going to happen. Apart from that, what I've been told by my seniors, that you have to develop a habit of reading a lot, reading judgments, and apart from judgments also reading a lot of commentaries on laws. So there's a lot of work involved. It's not easy. um, but yeah, I think that's what I know of as of now. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Is it possible to crack judiciary exam with the preparation of 2 years and in the first attempt?
Oh yeah, of course. I 2 years I think is too much. I'd say preparation time is about 8 to 10 months. उससे ज़्यादा time नहीं लगता है. 1 year will go in giving the exam only because pre-mains interview takes that long. Okay. So that, and then 1 year prior to that or 6 months prior to that, if you start your preparation, I think you're fine. So yes, you can. And first attempt, of course, you can. Delhi, I cleared in my first attempt. MP was my second attempt in MP, but Delhi was my first. So yes, you can with the right strategy, with a little bit of hard work. Yeah.
And when did you decide that, okay, judiciary is something you wanted to go for? And when exactly did you start preparing for the exam?
Okay, so I started after college. I started after I graduated. So, everybody who asks me कि मैम कॉलेज और प्रेपरेशन कैसे मैनेज करें, मुझे खुद ही नहीं पता क्योंकि मैंने कभी हिम्मत ही नहीं किया कॉलेज में ये करने का। क्योंकि मुझे पता था कि ये जो प्रेपरेशन है ये फुल टाइम प्रेपरेशन है, और अब मतलब ये करने के बाद, एग्जाम क्लियर करने के बाद मुझे और ये समझ में आ गया कि ये फुल टाइम प्रेपरेशन है, इट इज नॉट अ पार्ट टाइम प्रेप एग्जाम. So I took the decision after I graduated from NLIU. That was in June 2020. I started my preparation in December 2020, and I appeared for exams, and then I secured my result for Delhi in March 2023 and MP in February 2023. So roughly you can say about 2 years of struggle or prep or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one more question that I was frequently getting from all the students.
Yeah.
One is that for students who are very clear from the starting that they want to go for judiciary,
Yeah.
do they really need to go for internships? And if yes, then what kind of internships
Oh,
during
yes,
their college time?
yes, you should. I feel college is the best place to explore all the opportunities that lie in the field of law. So I don't think, even if you're very, very clear that, government exam is something that you want to do, I was also roughly clear that I wanted to appear for competitive exams. But I'd suggest that, every decision in your life has to be very informed. So always try to intern in diverse places. Obviously do a court internship, try to do a district court internship, of course, and also try to intern in corporate law firms, or try to intern with an in-house counsel. If a company is taking that kind of a, if a company is taking interns, Try to intern under an advocate, whatever, diverse sort of opportunities that you get. You have 5 years, or even in a 3-year LLB, you have enough vacations where you can intern. Because I also ended up taking the decision of not going for a corporate law firm job, because at NLUs we have, in the 4th year you have your day 0 and placement and everything. So the culture is very different over there. You have to sort of, everybody has to get a job at the end. So if you're not doing that, then you're doing something different. So that's why I'd always say that explore all opportunities in college. I actually lived a very fulfilling college life. Now that I look back upon it, I maintained my academics also decently. I participated in moods. I did an ADR competition. I wrote a paper. I participated in the college fest. So I didn't leave any, and I did internships also, of course. And I took the decision. I did one corporate internship in the Big Four, one of the Big Four law firms. And then I took a decision that, okay, this is not something I want to go for. I'll go for a government exam after I graduate. So that's that. So I'd suggest that, yes, you should intern, even if you're absolutely clear, so that you can at least eliminate these options, and lastly, college से better जगह नहीं मिलेगी आपको सारे options explore करने की. So that also.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, there's one more question that I was frequently getting. Is that like, does every state exam require different strategy of preparation? Or like, if you're preparing for one state examination, will that be sufficient for other states as well?
See, it's a little unfair actually. I feel ki, you have to go and appear in every state separately, and then you have to travel and all that as well. So when I live in Delhi, so when I had to go for my MP exam, you travel to Jabalpur, and all sorts of inconveniences come along with it. So I do understand that it's not an easy journey, but I would still suggest in the same breath that yes, you should appear for as many states as you can. Number one, okay, if you're a Hindi speaking individual, try to जो Hindi belt के जितने भी states हैं, कोशिश करिए उसमें. Don't look at the number of vacancies, okay. Just try to go and give as many exams as you can, firstly. Secondly, now that I also had this mental block, एक state का तैयारी कर रही हूँ तो दूसरे का मैं नहीं कर सकती हूँ, ऐसा था, और क्या हुआ कि मैं MP का मैंने अटेम्प्ट दिया. आई डिडंट अपीयर फॉर अदर स्टेट एग्जाम्स लाइक राजस्थान, हरियाणा एटसेट्रा. दोज हैड आल्सो कम अप. आई कुड easily very well have gone for that, but I just did not, because I had this mental block that, okay, no, I'm preparing for one state, it only has to be this state, right? I didn't sort of bring myself out of my comfort zone. Then what happened, MP first attempt में mains clear नहीं हुआ. So after that, I had nothing in my hands. Okay, and it was almost 2 years since I had graduated. It was last year in February. So I had nothing in my hand, no other backup option, nothing to look forward to also, because no notification had also come out. So that feeling was very scary. Usi ke saath saath, if I had appeared for, if I had maybe Rajasthan mains or Haryana mains to look forward to, I could absorb this shock and I would have other options open. So I'd suggest that, and now that, Delhi came after that, after Delhi ka notification suddenly just came last year, no one was expecting it. And then when that came, and I was very dejected, of course, after my unfavorable result, but I seized that opportunity and I said no. So then I prepared for Delhi and MP simultaneously. And the exam also went simultaneously. It was like prelims was 2 weeks apart, mains was like a month apart. My interviews were like 2 weeks apart. So when you look at it this way, even logically, मैं कितना ही अलग-अलग prepare कर लूंगी. There must be some common ground in both the states, right? Like you can't prepare for two completely different exams together, right? So there is a commonality. The difference that people think कि बहुत different है, उतना different नहीं है. Common subjects आप बिल्कुल आराम से साथ में prepare कर सकते हो, ठीक है? Of course, your strategy needs to be a little malleable. So you keep changing. So suppose in 1 month you have DJS prelims, suppose. So you focus on that. You do uske PYQs, us tarah ke questions. Your orientation should be that. Then you have MP, okay, then you focus on that. So, you just have to bring yourself a little out of your comfort zone and just take a bold step and, try to prepare for multiple states at once. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Also, ma'am, we're getting so many questions in the chat box.
Yeah,
Number one being,
yeah,
yes, ma'am. I'll just read out the question.
yes.
Hello, thank you for taking this session. I chose 3-year law over pursuing PhD, and currently I'm in first year. I'll graduate at the age of 28. So, would it be prudent to appear for judiciary? What is the scope of promotion, and if I were to qualify the examination by the age of 30 years? So yes,
Hmm.
ma'am, about the promotions and everything. And also, ma'am, a question similar to that. So,
Yeah,
what is the ideal age to clear judiciary? Because after that, because we know the judiciary involves late promotions, and
yeah.
people who get into judiciary as soon as possible, they are at a greater
Greater
opportunity to
advantage.
yeah, greater
Um,
advantage.
yeah, again, this is something of related to the disclaimer I gave right in the beginning. I'm not here to promote the judicial services as a career option, right? So the decision of going into uh, this career field when after you're done with law is totally your own. You should not be influenced by everybody. If you want to be a judge, there is no like age criteria. I mean, you can, if this is what you're passionate about, this is where your interest lies, you should go ahead, forget about the promotions and everything. Okay. Of course, there is a slight advantage to people who come at in their 20s, like between 25 to 28 is a good age to come into the judicial services. And to be honest, the average age of my batch, of my DJS batch, everyone is between 25 and 30 years of age. But there are people who keep appearing for the exam until 32 is the maximum age until you can appear. So people do keep appearing. It is a very lucrative um, job, a very worthwhile job where you can really do good work with your knowledge of law. So yeah, there are lots of people who appear at a later stage also, despite some like a little bit of disadvantage in terms of promotions. So people do that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Next question is how to manage judgments while going through statutory provisions, because there is no end to them. Majorly, how to make the resources exhaustive in nature.
I think yeah, judgments you should read them very selectively. Firstly, I actually didn't take any coaching as such, so all my studying was through reference books. I won't waste time in listing down my reference books because there are too many. But if in case any of you follow me on LinkedIn, I have two very detailed posts where I have mentioned all the reference books that I've used, and I have given a little review also कि इस बुक में ये अच्छा है, ये मैंने इससे मैंने ये selectively पढ़ा, things like that. So you could go through that. Whatever judgments were mentioned in those reference books, those are the ones that I study. There is, again, that's right, there is no limit. Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is no limit to the number of judgments, which is why I sort of limited myself to the book, to the reference books that I was doing. There's A.K. Jain, there was Pariksha Manthan. There are a lot of overlapping judgments also. So after a while you start understanding that ye repeat ho raha hai, so okay, this, and you understand what are the landmark judgments and which are not. So yeah, that's what I did. And I feel like there should be a demarcation between landmark and then recent. So recent judgments you should read from Live Law, Bar and Bench, whatever blog you subscribe to. Again, recent judgments, you don't have to read the whole judgment. Only suppose the judgment is related to 165 Evidence Act, then just read about the interpretation of the provision in that judgment. Don't start bothering yourself with the fact and the issues and the nonsense. Okay. So there's a smart way to go about this. So that's how you read judgments for the judicial service exam, because when you are writing your mains answer, you'll realize that you can't write a lot. There is very little time. You have 5 to 6 minutes roughly to write an answer. So you need to be very smart about what you're reading, how much time you're spending, and what you're reproducing in the paper. So yeah, that's what I did.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, also there are a lot of students who face difficulty when it comes to prelims and mains. So they don't know when to start the mains examination preparation. So did you start preparing mains as soon as you started preparing for the exam itself? or did you first wait to qualify prelims and then went about the preparation with mains?
Yeah, I think this is a good question. Pre and mains prep should be integrated, but everybody misconstrues this. When people say that pre and mains prep should be integrated, everybody thinks that nahi, it means that I from day one have to start writing mains answers. You don't have to do that. Mains answers require a certain knowledge, and certain level of expertise in the subject to be able to write an answer. Okay, so you should start with pre and mains integrated prep. What that means is that you read the Bare Act, but you also read a reference book along with it, so that you have some idea about the landmark cases in a topic, you have some idea of a little bit of commentary, doctrines, because in the Bare Act is just the Bare Act, right? There's nothing else apart from the provision in that. So a lot of interpretation, a lot of understanding, you'll know only when you read. Now, this extra material could be coaching material that they provide you. It could be a reference book. I would not suggest that you go and read like the commentaries. Like, don't go and read Ratan Lal, Dheeraj Lal, or Kelkar, or Takwani, or things like that. I would say जुडिशियल सर्विसेज की गाइड बनी हुई है, वो इसीलिए बनी है क्योंकि वो एग्जाम में आपकी हेल्प करेगी, ठीक है? वो उसमें उतना ही इंफॉर्मेशन दिया है जितना आपको जरूरी है एग्जाम के लिए. These guides, CPC ka Takwani and all, you don't have to do a PhD. You have to understand that. Okay, so you read a little bit of extra stuff. You read the Bare Act. That means that you have studied like integrated pre and mains. You have done preparation in a holistic manner. And then once you're sort of done with your syllabus once, okay, it will take you about 6 months to 6 months and 8 to 10 hours of prep per day, okay, with obviously with like some breaks, maybe 6 days a week, 5 days a week, like that. You will finish. Once you're done with this, like one round, you've looked at all the subjects, then you start your mains answer writing. Okay, now you could also do, a lot of people do ki, okay, mera CRPC khatam ho gaya, to main usse related jo mains ke questions hai, unko solve kar lete hain. You could do that also. Okay, so that's how you go about pre and mains.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, how did you go about notes making? Because, like, did you make your own notes or did you prefer notes from any source?
The thing is, it's a very hit and trial kind of method. You don't figure out what exactly your strategy is going to be on day 1 or even on day 20. Okay, तो आप देखते रहते हो कि अच्छा what works best for me, and then you sort of go along with it. So I also tried making very extensive, very nice notes, right in the beginning. बहुत जोश होता है उस time पे, okay, बहुत motivation भी होता है, but all that runs out very quickly, okay, and then all of us face all sorts of things. I'm not saying, I mean, every single aspirant has gone through that same self-doubt, negativity cycle, right? So that motivation and consistency runs out. So in that sense, I'd say note making, I don't advise anybody to do note making, like making extensive notes कि okay, मैं Bare Act का पूरा provision, उसको अच्छे से flow chart बना के and all that. Don't do all that. जितना टाइम वो नोट्स बनाने में लगेगा उसमें आप Bare Act और कमेंट्री को एक बार 2 बार पढ़ लोगे. That's what I did. Now, of course, thoda bahut note making you should do. So what I would do is that in the Bare Act only, I take post-it notes and maybe just write down certain keywords of sections there. Especially for larger sections, you do need to remember certain keywords. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes just marginal notes in the sections. Or if I'm reading a reference book, जो guide book है, तो उसमें okay, थोड़ा सा underline करके कुछ extra अगर case या कुछ note कर लिया. या sometimes ऐसे होता था कि I have a mains question, okay, but I can't write the whole answer, so एक post-it पे उसका एक skeleton बना के लिख लिया. So my note making was limited to this. It was like if I'm like, imagine you're standing outside the exam hall and you need to revise a particular topic in 2 minutes. Okay, what would you refer to? That should be your note. It should not be something which is like 10 pages long, which will not help you recall things later on, right? So you have to be really smart about things. I would suggest this, and you can see if it works for you.
Yes, ma'am. There's some participant who has raised the hand.
Yeah.
Miss Aditi, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, ma'am. I hope I'm visible as well as audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hi, ma'am. From religiously following you on LinkedIn and eagerly waiting for Sukriti Say's post, this is quite a dream, like confrontation for me. I must also mention how genuinely helpful each of the posts were, and how I got really sad when they ended. Uh, so, ma'am, I would directly jump into the question. I
Yeah.
would ask that what's that one fundamental thing or element, according to you, that's needed to crack the exam? Or I would just ask that what makes you stand out from all the aspirants that appeared for the exam? Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Well, there are several actually, but I think the most important quality that you need to succeed in life is to take initiative. You can't wait for things to be spoon-fed to you. So a lot of these things, like if you have gone through my LinkedIn post, like the rest of you, and so you will see that everything, now all my sources, all the strategy, all the things that I started figuring out, I have done that on my own. I did not wait for any coaching institute or anyone else to come and tell me that no, this is what you're supposed to do. I took a test series for MP mains because ek bar I had failed. So next time I was like very ultra careful. So I took a test series, but I was so desperate to succeed that I said no, test series mein to maine kar liya hai, but I want to practice more. So I went ahead and I did like a whole practice session with okay. Please mute yourself. Yeah. So I went ahead and did a whole practice thing with my friend where we would write answers, 2 3 answers every day and send to each other. So it's like you have to be willing to go the extra mile a little bit. I think that is what makes anybody who has succeeded in these exams. Now I've interacted with a lot of people also who have cleared MP or DJS or other states, and everybody says the same thing, that a little extra you have to do than what everybody else is doing. Okay, so I think that's the main thing, little initiative you have to take. And lastly, see, don't study out of motivation. Motivation is a very quick burning fuel. Okay, today you will feel motivated, tomorrow you will not feel motivated. Okay, or 3 4 days down the line, that josh is going to go away. So you have to study out of discipline. That, how in school we used to go to school 7 to 1, you have to be in school, right? Whatever, whether you like it or not, man kar raha hai, nahi kar raha, karna hai, right? Unless you're obviously sick, or that's different. So study like that. When you're preparing full time, it's very easy, you're just at home, nobody else is there, nobody's there to police you. So people stop studying, or they don't give the desired effort. So you have to see, no, if today 8 hours I have to study, I have to study. जिस दिन मन नहीं भी कर रहा है, उस दिन भी पढ़ना है. That's what you have to do. You have to be a little disciplined in your manner of studying. So I think, yeah, that, like, don't depend on motivation and depend on more on discipline. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say. You're mute. You're mute. What is happening? Are you
Yes,
speaking?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We got unmuted. Yes, ma'am. Another question that I've been receiving is about writing skills. So, how did you improve your writing skills for the mains paper?
Oh, it's just about practice. I think first, like I said, I took a test series. I think that's really good. But then I practiced, like MPP, like use also with this friend. So we would sort of send, like, write answers to questions, time ourselves and write answers, and then send it to each other. और राइटिंग स्किल improve करने का ना सबसे अच्छा तरीका यही होता है कि आप अपना आंसर किसी और को दिखाओ. Then that person will give you a review. So she would tell me that यार ये तूने थोड़ा सा ज्यादा लिख दिया, ये उतना नीट नहीं लग रहा है, यहाँ पे ये मिसिंग है, ये केस लॉ ऐड कर दे, things like that. And I would also tell her certain suggestions. So that's how I worked on it myself, right, rather than, because if you go to a coaching, you just wait for the teachers over there, sir review kar do, sir check kar do. Forget about that. वो check करें नहीं करें, जो भी होता रहे, आप खुद से आप जितना कर सकते हो वो करो, right? So this is what I did to get enough practice. Again, there's one more misconception, that for mains you have to learn how to write each and every answer on each and every topic. No, you don't have to do that. Okay, You like for MP, for instance, we had 10 years के papers थे हमारे पास, ठीक है. We could only do 5 years. उतने देर में मेंस का एग्जाम ही आ गया, ठीक है. तो we could only do 5 years, but 5 years के भी papers हमने किए, ठीक है. And we realized that okay, now we've gotten the hang of writing a mains answer. तो अभी कोई भी topic पे करेंगे, knowledge is there, right? You just need to know how to present your answer properly in the mains, right? So now we have the hang of it. तो अभी हर answer ऐसे वो like unnecessary गधा मजदूरी की तरह नहीं करना है. You need to be again like smart about how you are practicing. So just that, I think everybody gets the hang of writing mains answers after you've probably written say 50-60 answers. You will get the hang of it. Okay, try to time yourself and do it. That's how you will be able to complete your mains paper. And that's it. It's not rocket science answer writing. Okay. Yeah.
Also, ma'am, how did you go about the language paper? Because a lot of those aspirants actually neglect the language paper,
Yeah.
and that's where they suffer from.
Right.
Yeah. So, how did you prepare for language?
Language, yeah. I know it's, and the thing is, in exams like UPSC and all, language is not added to the merit list. But here, your Hindi English translation summarization is all part of it, makes up your mains marks and then ultimately your rank also. Right. So you cannot ignore that, number one. Number two, translation is difficult for everybody. Okay, it was not easy for me. I consider myself very good with languages, but it was not easy for me. Because you don't use this kind of language in daily life, right? You don't say sange aprad. You say cognizable offense. You don't say gair zamanti, or you don't say things like that. So, which is why there are two approaches to do this. One is that you buy Diglot ka Bare Act. Okay. So you have one English page on one side, one Hindi page on the other side. And you read it simultaneously. So you read the English page and then you read the same thing in Hindi also. That's how you will build up your vocabulary and you'll know that this word means this in Hindi. Right. But that is very tedious and time consuming, right? I was like, this reading in English is only so insufferable. What would you read in Hindi again? The same thing. So I could not do that. Okay. It was very, very boring, also very tedious also. But then translation is tedious. You have to get used to that. Okay. It's not some exciting thing that you're doing. So I got my hands on a glossary. I've been sharing, now I have a PDF of that glossary. I've been sharing that with people on LinkedIn. You just DM me, I'll send it to you. Okay. So it was a 1300 word glossary. I memorized the whole thing. 7-8 times I read it. That's how I memorized it over the course of 6 months. I didn't do it in one day. It is 1300 words. राइट एंड देन आई प्रैक्टिस PYQs. जो भी स्टेट के PYQs मिलते गए, MP का मिल गया, DJs का मिल गया, राजस्थान का भी कर लिया था मैंने, तो वो मैं PYQs प्रैक्टिस के लिए करती रही. People ask me, is there any book for translation? No. This much you do a glossary of 1300 words, you practice how much ever you can. You don't need to read some like great Hindi grammar book to do well in your translation. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question, ma'am, it's about interview. So,
Yes.
hello, ma'am. I know it's too soon to ask this question, but I'd really like to know how to prepare for the interview, because after studying for months and years at home, but all by yourself, you have to go out there and suddenly present yourself. So, how do you prepare yourself for that part of the preparation?
Well, interview, see, first I'd say that you should give a lot of mock interviews before you are, once your mains is done, and a lot of coaching institutes will come out with their mock interview series, so you can enroll yourself and just do that. I myself gave about 7 or 8 mocks before both my interviews. So do that. You will be a little familiar with how things are going to be. But in the same breath, I'd say मैंने 7-8 मॉक इंटरव्यूज दिए थे, बट जब मैं MP में भी और DJS में भी, nothing can prepare you for what is going to happen before the honorable high court judges. Nothing can prepare you for that, right? You go in and all hell sort of breaks loose. So I think what you should ultimately do, once you've cleared the mains, एक repository of knowledge है आपके पास, ठीक है? Now you have to see this exam, if you look at it very simply, it's like it's just testing you, basically testing your knowledge, right? So what do you have to do? Pre में क्या करना है? ठीक है, हम तुम्हारे सामने 4 ऑप्शंस रख देंगे, तुम सही वाला बता दो. मेंस में क्या करना है? अच्छा, तुमने उधर सही वाला बता दिया, अब लिख के भी बता दो. ठीक है, इंटरव्यू में क्या करना है? अच्छा, लिख के बता दिया, अब बोल के भी बता दो सेम चीज को. It's that, when you simply look at something, it is just that they're testing different एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ इट, राइट, कि हम किसी फ्रॉड को तो नहीं ले रहे ना, उसको पता है, उसको बोल के भी पता है कि व्हाट ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, रट के तो नहीं आ गया, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. So that's why in an interview, the way you're talking, the way you're communicating with those people, with the judges, your fluency becomes very important. So at that time, you cannot start, stuttering, and whatever you're expressing, that will all get lost. Okay. Plus, what I noticed is that in the interview, these are sitting judges who are taking the interview. Okay. So they have gone through a whole day of work already. You go in at 7 o'clock in the evening, they are eager to go home. Okay, everybody is eager to get home in the evening. So nobody is going to give you that much time. So you start faltering. Suppose they'll ask you something, or आपको answer नहीं आ रहा, they'll move to the next question. Okay, or they'll move to something else, another topic already. Altogether. So you have to be very quick also in your answers. You have to think on your feet over there, and you have to be able to say things very clearly to them, right? So that is why I'd say definitely do mock interviews. I used to do this thing. I'm an auditory learner, so I would pick up the Barak and I would read every provision like line by line. Okay, like that's how I generally prepared also in my 2 years. That's how I did. So all those legal terms and things like that, they become part of your conversational language. So it's not something that you're saying for the first time in front of those people, right? So if you want, you can try doing that, so you're familiar with some legal jargon, and maybe speak a little in front of the mirror. I did do that for practice. I also watched a lot of mock interviews on YouTube. Okay, so and I made a list of questions while I was watching the mock interviews कि उसमें क्या क्या पूछ रहे हैं. And then I had like maybe I must have watched 50-60 mock interviews YouTube पे, जितने थे मैंने सारे देख लिए जुडिशियल सर्विसेज के. और उसमें उसकी लिस्ट बना ली, तो फिर उसमें कुछ 150-200 क्वेश्चन सिविल के बन गए, 150-200 क्रिमिनल के, और ऐसे ही कुछ 50-60 बन गए like personality HR related. So then when I started preparing, again, see, this is initiative. Mock interviews coaching will help you, right? They'll also provide you a list of questions that have been asked that you should know. But this is something again I did on my own, little extra. Okay, so that's what I did. I prepared answers for that. It's not very tough. Okay. And lastly, on live law, there is this tab called Judicial Services. Okay, so you can go through that also. They have some very nice, like, application based questions, which may be asked, because interviews may generally they ask you hypothetical questions a lot. Okay, so in both my interviews, they twisted facts a little bit and asked me hypothetical questions. So, you could go through live law ka wo wala judicial services wala tab a little bit to get a hang of what kind of questions they can ask. So yeah, just a sort of a mixed bag, like no particular strategy as such.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Also, ma'am, there's this question that, ma'am, students from other states, so they're appearing for examinations of different states. For example, a student from, let's say, Delhi is appearing for Rajasthan Judicial Services. So what happens in interviews of RJs, that they ask very culture and tradition oriented questions as well.
Yeah.
So how to get a hang of it as well, of different states.
Well, see, I'm not from MP, right? I just did my college in Bhopal for 5 years, but I'm not from MP. Like, I had no connection to the state at all. So, of course, when you are appearing for it's a state level exam. So, obviously, they will ask you certain questions about the state, a little bit history, geography, culture, things like that. Generally, outsiders से वैसे सवाल नहीं पूछते हैं. Okay, so they did not ask me so much. Like, when I went in for my MP interview, they said me, okay, so where do you hail? So I originally hail from Madhubani, Bihar. So I said, so that's where I'm from. And then they said, okay, so can you tell us about Madhubani art? Things like that. So they actually asked me about my where I am originally from, my roots, right? They did not grill me on MP related GK. But if they do, it's always good to read a little bit about the state, read a little bit about the polity of the state, especially Vidhan Sabha में कितनी seats हैं, things like that. Lok Sabha में उस state की कितनी seats हैं. Currently वहाँ पे अब, you cannot go for an interview and then not know who is the Chief Justice of the High Court of that state, right? So, things like that, very basic things you should know. But if you don't know things in an interview, and this is true for the law aspect of it, interview में नहीं पता है, simply say, sir, sorry, I don't know, I cannot recall at the moment. I have done that liberally. Okay, बिना बेशरम होके दिल्ली MP दोनों में बोला, सर मेरे को नहीं आता, मुझे नहीं याद आ रहा, नहीं पता है. Okay, and they were like, okay, okay, no problem. They moved to the next question. So that's also okay. Instead of bluffing and guessing at that time, you cannot bluff them. ठीक है, you cannot. अरे आप इतना nervous होते हो ना उस time, मुंह से सच के अलावा कुछ और निकलता ही नहीं है. ठीक है.
Yes.
So that is also one reality that we should all be cognizant of. So yeah, so that's what it is. Read up a little bit, but they will not grill you. If you're not from that state, they will not grill you that much.
Ma'am, one more interview-related question. So,
Yeah.
is there any language strictness when it comes to like answering the questions in the interview? So, will they be?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so but you have a medium of the interview. तो जो आपका मेंस का मीडियम है वही आपका इंटरव्यू का. So अगर आपने इंग्लिश में मेंस लिखा है तो obviously you have to appear for the interview in English only. But usually there isn't. Judges also sometimes वो आपसे आराम से हिंदी में भी बात करते हैं, और अगर वो आपसे हिंदी में बात कर रहे हैं तो better to answer in हिंदी only. वहां पे इंग्लिश झाड़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. Okay, it's like that. So yeah, but there isn't. It's very chill. Again, what I said, whatever you're saying should be absolutely clear. The language is not that important.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, then there is this language paper question.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, a lot of the students from especially NLUs and other state universities who are from English medium, they suffer a lot when it comes to translations, because translation and casual Hindi is okay, but when
Yeah.
it comes to legal terms and very strict legal terms, which we are not usually aware of until we intern at a lower court or something. So,
Right.
how do we get a hang of it? Like, what source do we
I
need to
think
refer
I think I've dealt with this, right? I talked about Diglot and I talked about the glossary, and then I talked about how I practiced like extra PYQs also of translation. I think that's all. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Um, okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, let me just see for more questions.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's this very out of context questions but it is very highly asked, that all the NLU students, because of NLU's work culture, which is very corporate,
Hmm.
so they don't get the motivation and not much of the fraternity when it comes to judiciary aspirants. So how to maintain that motivation, not just the motivation, but also to gain the knowledge of what my competitor is doing
Hmm.
when it comes to NLU, because you're also again an NLU pass out. So
Well, all these things are very personal actually. Because if I mean, you could be in an NLU, right? And you would still not want to go for a corporate job or like, a private job. A lot of people do that. Of course, the culture is shaped that way that, okay, at the end of the fourth year, you should get a placement. But again, it's something, like I said, as long as you do enough internships, you explore your opportunities, okay, and you figure out a little bit what you want to do ultimately in life, then it's okay wherever you are. You can be in DU at CLC, you can be in an NLU, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's your life, right? You have to figure out what you want to do for the next 30-35 years. So just open your mind a little bit to all the aspects of the legal profession. And yeah, just sort of go ahead with that. Don't try to do what the herd is doing. I feel like everybody gets sort of stuck in that, but don't do that.
okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there's this question about coachings that's been really frequently asked. So is coaching really necessary when it comes to?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, I did want to address this actually. Coaching, see, I have always advised whoever I've spoken to, I think 300-400 बच्चों से ज्यादा लोगों से बात कर ली है मैंने, आई थिंक फोन पे. आई हैव लॉस्ट काउंट ऑल्सो, बट जिससे भी बात की है पर्सनली या जनरली इन एडवाइस टर्म्स ऑल्सो, आई से दैट डू अ कोचिंग इफ यू हैव टाइम. डू इट डेफिनेटली. ओके, दे विल गाइड यू वेरी वेल. द कॉम्पिटिशन इज टफ, आपको हेल्प की जरूरत है. ठीक है. ये जो जर्नी है प्रेपरेशन की, वो आप बिल्कुल अकेले नहीं कर सकते. द कंपटीशन इज टफ, और कभी कभी आपको ये समझ में भी नहीं आएगा कि वेदर यू ऑन द राइट डायरेक्शन और नॉट, राइट पाथ और नॉट. है ना? So like I didn't take a test series, right? So I have not done a foundation batch coaching myself. I did a crash course, before MP prelims, and then before MP mains, I did a test series. That's my extent of coaching that I've done. But if you feel like you need a foundation batch coaching, go ahead, do it. Do it. Definitely. Take all the help that you need. This is your life, right? This is 30-35 years of what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So take it seriously. Take the help that you can. Um, Secondly, now that these laws, this change thing has come about, all the aspirants who are preparing on their own are really scared. Okay, because we've been studying this, so how are we going to manage the amended laws and things like that? So in that case, if you are in a coaching, then they will take care of it for you. So like drastic situations like these are in law, unfortunately, because laws are prone to amendment. So things like these happen. Syllabus just changes very suddenly. So then a coaching would help you out in that case. Right. So I think, yeah, definitely do a coaching if you have time.
Yes, ma'am. Also, ma'am, because you're pursuing an LLM now, so
Yeah.
like, does LLM is LLM required before um, judiciary examination, and how much big of an impact does it make in your preparation? And is there like any leverage or any benefit if you do LLM before judiciary?
Okay. Well, see, it's not, I mean, it's not definitely not a qualification, right? So it's not necessary to do an LLM. I also did my LLM, like I joined LLM last year, so I'm actually done with it now. I'm not pursuing it anymore. I just finished it last month. Um, so I'd say that, see, as a course, it's a very good course, right? It deepens your understanding of the law very, very well. I love that. Okay, I wrote a dissertation also, and there's a lot of like research that you learn how to do, which is again, knowledge is good, right? For generally in life, like accumulation of knowledge is great. But I would say preparing and doing an LLM side by side, I don't think that's possible. Okay. I was at NLUD. It's a 9 month course. It's very, very packed, tight. You have classes 9 to 5, then you have like 1,000 readings. So I don't think if I had like, I joined LLM last year in September, okay, and my DJS and MP mains were done by that time. So what I had to, like, the difficult part is that now only interviews were remaining. That also I didn't know if I had qualified, because like I just appeared. So I wasn't preparing full time at the time. So that's okay. But I think back now that if I had to prepare full time along with an LLM, I would not be able to do it. Right. So that's what I'd suggest, that मास्टर्स इज समथिंग यू कैन डू एट एनी पॉइंट इन योर लाइफ, है ना? कोई नहीं रोक रहा, कभी भी आप 40 साल के भी होगे तो भी कर सकते हो। तो अगर आपका सपना जज बनना है तो आप उस पर पहले फोकस करो। और जैसे मैंने भी 2 साल अच्छे से दिए प्रेपरेशन को, एग्जाम्स दे दिए सारे, और 2022 में जाके एलएलएम किया, है ना? तो वैसे आप थोड़ा सा फेज्ड मैनर में चीजें कर सकते हैं। And if you have an LLM, obviously, I mean, it's not like you're more qualified than the other person, but it's definitely an advantage, no? Like, why not? Anybody who has a master's degree would definitely be a little more considered, a little more knowledgeable. So that way.
Um, Yes, ma'am. There's this question. I wanted to know about inclusion of judgments while writing answers for mains. Should we add them generally or if specifically asked for?
See, if specifically asked for, add it, like you have to do it, obviously. But generally, also, if you know one or two landmark judgments, definitely, it gives a very nice holistic sort of feel to your answer, that it's not just bare act. Especially states like Haryana and Delhi, आपको bare act मिल जाता है, तो वहां पे जजमेंट्स की वैल्यू बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है, बिकॉज आप bare act तो सामने ही है ना, तो वो तो नहीं लिख सकते, आपको केसेस या थोड़ी बहुत कमेंट्री लिखनी पड़ेगी। तो या लाइक डेफिनेटली, बट देन डोंट स्टार्ट मेकिंग इट, जैसे कॉलेज में वी वर टॉट ना कि हाँ, जो भी ऐसे दिमाग में रट के गए हैं, 16 जजमेंट्स हैं इस टॉपिक के, तो 16 के 16 आप उसमें उल्टी करके आओ पेपर में। You don't need to do that. You don't have time also to do that. Two things. Okay. So write maximum 3 to 4 judgments, right? In a state like Delhi or Haryana, that's it. In a state like MP, which is a very theoretical paper, write 1 or 2 judgments. That's it. And if you can support your answer with a recent judgment, then write one recent judgment which has come out on a topic. Like dying declaration, mein every month one new judgment comes out. Okay. So maybe write that and write one landmark judgment, like one landmark, one recent. That's it.
Um, Yes, ma'am. About the recent judgment as well. And there's this question about following current legal knowledge. So, were
Oh,
you,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, how were you following the current legal updates? Were you following a particular newspaper
Hmm.
or a particular website? What was the source?
See, so there's one really nice book which is called Universal's Guide for Legal GK. Okay, it's this small, like thin 150 to 100 page book. So that was because Delhi mein legal GK is asked, है ना? So it has like a little bit of static legal GK also with respect to Attorney General, Solicitor General, and Constitution and things like that. And then it has current legal GK also, like all the law related current affairs in the last 1 year, that okay, there's justice clock inaugurated somewhere, or there is some like Nyaya e-resource center in some city, something like that. So it has all those things also. So that I did, but again, little extra. So suppose like for Delhi, I read about, see, you have to ना एक ऐसा होता है ना, उसको एग्जाम की नब्ज को पकड़ना होता है. इट्स दैट ओके. सो दिल्ली का पेपर है, दिल्ली में लीगल जीके पूछ रहे हैं, तो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट के बारे में तो पढ़ोगे ना, है ना? थोड़ा सा हिस्ट्री पढ़ोगे, चीफ जस्टिस पहले कौन थे पढ़ोगे, है ना? अभी की स्ट्रेंथ कितनी है वो पढ़ोगे. तो आई डिड दैट बाय जस्ट बाय कॉमन सेंस, बिकॉज आई एम लाइक दिल्ली का एग्जाम है, ऑब्वियसली दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट के बारे में पता होना चाहिए. ओके. एंड surely there was a question that what is the current strength of the Delhi High Court. There was one question in the prelims, okay, which I had just anticipated in my head and I could answer that because I had read extra. This is not given in any guide, right? So you read things like that. Okay, Delhi ki legislative assembly mein kya hai, stuff like that. Abhi jaise there was one like legal current affairs का as such कोई source नहीं होता. You just have to, like, the chief justice made a comment, for instance, while I was prepared, like sometime last year, कि oh, we always talk about founding fathers, we never talk about founding mothers. Okay, I said, okay, wait, so founding mothers, now we have to look at the women of the Constituent Assembly also, right? There were 15 women. At least be able to name two of them. Okay, look at women Supreme Court judges. So I made a list. There have only been 11, sadly, since independence to now, only 11 women Supreme Court judges, right? I made a list. I was like, okay, first ये थी, अभी latest इनका यहाँ पे हुआ है, oath हुआ है, and surely there was one more question in DJS pre which said कि how many women judges have we had since 1950 to April 1, 2022, and I knew 11, mark कर दिया, right? So you have to be little very, keep your eyes and ears little open, that okay, if this kind of thing is in debate, then surely some question in the exam can be asked from that. So that, firstly, I told you about universal legal GK. Also you could look at, there are civil services की जो preparation की website होती है, उस पे एक ना polity current affairs का वो आता है compilation. ठीक है, they have economy and social issues and things like that. Look at the polity one because that is your pure legal GK. ठीक है, so look at that. I downloaded, I don't want to name any coaching, but I downloaded this PT 365 polity wala from there. Okay, if anybody knows a little bit about civil services preparation, they'll know which coaching I'm referring to. So I downloaded that. That was about 100 pages. I read that also for legal GK. Okay, and current affairs, basically legal current affairs. So that way, like you have to be a little creative with your sources. I always say that you have to be a little creative. Okay, sadly जितना सिविल सर्विसेज के लिए या दूसरे इंजीनियरिंग एंट्रेंस एग्जाम्स के लिए ना बहुत ऑर्गेनाइज स्ट्रक्चर्ड मटेरियल है, जुडिशरी के लिए उतना नहीं है. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए आपको थोड़ा सा खुद करना पड़ेगा, राइट? आई एम टेलिंग यू सोर्सेज. इफ यू फाइंड एनीथिंग एल्स यू कैन डू दैट आल्सो.
Okay, ma'am. One of the very frequently asked question is about time management. Ma'am, we'll take this last question because we're already, like, the time is already.
Yeah, it's 6. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So time management first, ma'am, with both the perspectives, time management while preparing and also time management while writing the answer paper, question paper. Yes,
right. Okay. Okay. Of course. Yeah. See, time management while preparing, I'll tell you my routine, my daily routine. So it was very simple. Because I was at home, right, and I used to be alone at home. Both my parents went to work, so I had the whole house to myself to prepare, and I could do whatever. So I had this thing that I would wake up early in the morning, say around 6 or 7. That's my normal time of waking up. Pre-lunch, I would do 4 hours, and post-lunch, I would do 4 hours. So, like I said, that discipline has to be there 8 hours, no matter whatever I'm feeling, I have to study. After that, so this is only for law. Okay. And then after that, I would take up like translation or English or computers, GK, current affairs, legal GK. right? So then 2 hours I would reserve after that for that. So 4 plus 4 plus 2, 10 hours a day. You study. By the time you'll be tired also, by 11 o'clock I used to be dead. Okay, and then I would go to sleep, and then the same cycle I would start again. What I didn't do is I didn't like make very set, elaborate timetables. I was very chill about the whole thing. So today, if I've woken up and I'm in a really great productive mood, okay, let's pick up CPC. Okay, let's pick up a tough subject and do it. If I'm not, okay, maybe let's revise something I've already studied before. Let's pick up SRA. Let's do contract, something like that. Okay, so I was very chill about it. So because when you make, like today, if I say, today I have to study TPA only, or एकदम मन नहीं लग रहा उसमें, ठीक है, then you also fall into that negative thought process. Yeah, I'm not able to do anything and nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Don't get into all that. Okay, just be a little kind to yourself also. So that is how you manage your time. And let me tell you, there is no escape from the 8 to 10 hours of padhai. Okay, that much you have to do. And you have to do it only for say about a year. Not even like 12 months, matlab bahut खींच के. You can finish all this in 8-9 months also आराम से, depending on your speed and other aspects obviously. So that time I think you can manage. 1 साल से ज्यादा अगर आपको लग रहा है जुडिशियल सर्विसेज की तैयारी करने में, तो आप कुछ गलत कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, so that also you have to keep in mind. Secondly, time management during the exam. Yes, during mains, it's very, very important. What I used to do is this watch I wore, okay, during the mains also. You take out the watch and keep it. You keep looking at the clock while you're writing each answer. And don't see, you have to write all answers, all good answers. You don't have to write one excellent answer, all other shit answers. You don't have to do that, right? So that is why whatever you know a lot, but you will not be able to replicate all that. So 5 to 6 minutes I would see कि 5 से 6 मिनट हो गए, okay, इस आंसर को राउंड ऑफ करो, मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट वन. ठीक है, this strategy helped me. MP का पेपर खोल के देखो, it was so lengthy, it was insane. They made parts and parts. Okay, एक क्वेश्चन में ऐसे 4-4 पार्ट्स कर दिए थे. लाइक देवर थिंग्स आई रोट इतना हाफ पेज, और like 2/3 of a page, and that's it. That was my answer because there was no time to write. Otherwise I won't be able to finish the paper. So that's what you have to do. Okay, finishing the paper is most important. So you have to manage your time again. Like जैसे जैसे टाइम बीतता जाए, बस वो आंसर को छोड़ दो, नेक्स्ट वाले पे मूव ऑन करो. डजंट मैटर इफ यू हैव नॉट रिटन टू योर फुल सेटिस्फैक्शन, मजा नहीं आ रहा, फील नहीं आ रही, डज नॉट मैटर. ओके, बी वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट. मेंस में जिसने पेपर खत्म किया, दैट पर्सन ओनली हैज अ चांस ऑफ सक्सीडिंग. पीपल हु डू नॉट फिनिश द पेपर have a very slim to none chance of clearing the mains. Okay, so be very, very mindful of that.
Okay, ma'am. So I guess that's all for today's session.
Yeah.
We would like to express our gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Ms. Jha, for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Cracking the Judiciary Service Examination is a noble pursuit that requires dedication, hard work, and guidance from experienced mentors. Ma'am, is there anything that you would like to say for the concluding statements?
Oh, like I say this to everybody who I've in all webinars at the end, that you'll feel like giving up at certain points in time. Even I felt like giving up, but now that I look back, like when I had my first unfavorable result, I was ready to give up. I told my father I'll look for a law firm job, that this is it, I'm not going to continue my preparation. And he motivated me. He said, okay, just give it one more year. Don't give up just yet. Just wait. This is only the first failure that you've had. So now that I look back, I'm so glad I didn't give up. I'm so glad I kept going, because I would never know what I'm capable of if I had given up. So I had never thought in my life that I would clear the Delhi Judicial Services exam. I thought it's meant for some very enlightened, gifted legal minds, and I thought I can't do it. But I'm so glad I tried, and I saw that yeah, if I work hard, even I can do it. So don't give up. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to also call upon Siddharth Sharma, for co-founder of In Light of Law, for saying some concluding statements. Ankit bhai, is Siddharth bhai available?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, yeah.
I'm presuming that I am properly audible as well as visible.
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. As now we conclude this enlightening and insightful session, I, Siddharth Sharma, on behalf of whole organizing team, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Sukriti Jha ma'am for her invaluable time and expertise she shared today. जब मैंने मैम को फर्स्ट टाइम लिंक्डइन पर अप्रोच किया, आई मस्ट से आई वाज बिट नर्वस. It was the very first time I had any interaction with ma'am, but she not only accepted my invitation with enthusiasm, but she also kindly guided me throughout the journey. It goes without saying, ma'am, that your unique perspective, your journey, and the things you have shared today will inspire for all those who are aspiring to enter in the judicial world. Thank you once again, ma'am. We wish you success for all your future endeavors. Thank you, all the participants, for joining us today. Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you. All the best.